I'm a multimedia journalist, so these are some of the biggest things that happened in the last 10 years. If you could forward that one.
Okay.
Computing power has become vastly cheaper in this country. I mean, who's heard of Moore's Law before? That's a law that says that the price per unit of computing power is going to go down by about half once every 2 years or so. It means computers are going to get more powerful, they're going to get cheaper at the same time, which means you can make them smaller. Digital storage has become vastly cheaper. This is a 16 gig thumb drive. Can you imagine this 20 years ago? 16 gigs in this, and I bought it for less than $30. It's probably cheaper right now. Bandwidth has become vastly cheaper. If you're using the internet, you don't have to wait, unless you're on dial-up right now, you don't have to wait for things to take a long time to download. And all of that has led to things like the iPhone. Who has a smartphone in here? You couldn't have that 20 years ago because the computers weren't powerful enough. That's got a computer, it has a little, it's got a lot of storage in it, it's got just a little bit to make it do a lot of things. And 20 years ago, you didn't have it. So what's happened is that up on the board. I mean, I'm sure many of you have heard about how newspapers are in trouble across the country, and there's a lot of truth to that. You can look at the numbers up there. In 1940, about 41 million people were reading newspapers on a daily basis. By 1987, the population of the country had gone up quite a bit. It was up to 62 million, and 1987 is when the long decline of newspaper circulation started, that you probably heard about. 2000 is down about 55 million. 2009 is about 46 million. And if you've been watching television news, been reading papers, you all know these things. But there's a problem. These numbers are for newspapers across the country. And big city newspapers have been disproportionately affected by declining newspaper circulation. Community newspapers are doing rather well. The reason those numbers are going down, this is a piece of it, it's not the only piece, but it's because of those three things I was talking about. Because so many people have smartphones, because it's so easy to set up an internet site, because the Chamber can have a Facebook site. There are many restaurants around here who have Facebook sites. People have more options for media. They don't need to read a newspaper necessarily if they want to read about foreign affairs. They can go to nytimes.com, but they can also go to the Huffington Post, they can go to Fox News, they can go to all sorts of different things because computing power has become so cheap in the past 10 years or so. But there's a problem with those numbers because with community newspapers, they're actually doing fairly well. And Sauk Prairie Eagle is one of those. We have a couple thousand circulation paper. This is a study that came out just a few months ago in December. 74% of people, this is according to a survey that was conducted through the Reynolds Journalism Institute, in communities with a newspaper circulation less than 15,000, that's definitely the Eagle, that's Sauk Prairie, they read the paper each week. 73% read most or all of it. 61% read local news very often. 83% say that the local news was the primary reason they read local newspapers. And for papers like the Sauk Prairie Eagle, people can't get local news from too many other places. If you want to read about what's happening in Syria, you have many options. If you want to read about what's happening in Sauk Prairie Eagle is a pretty good bet. That's why community newspapers have been doing so well. That's one of the main reasons. So to talk about what all of this extra computing power, multimedia, video, all of these things that we didn't have 10 or 20 years ago means for community newspapers like the Eagle, I think you can forward it one more. This, you can probably, if you're in the back, you can't quite see what that is, but these are some of the file formats we use for uploading to our website. We have articles up there. Those are traditional print articles. People write. I do this. I'm a journalist. I write stories. We take photographs. Those are up there. But now, because all of these things have become cheaper, we have smartphones we can use. We have, people have iPods. We can use these. I've brought a little audio recorder here that you wouldn't have seen 20 years ago. This can store hours and hours and hours of information. We have flip cameras that we can use. And the neat thing about working at a community newspaper right now is that some of these things that are making life difficult for people at big papers like the New York Times that are really losing circulation, some of those things are inexpensive to us too. And that means that we can get flip cameras. We can use all of these wonderful new tools that we couldn't have afforded 20 years ago. We have them now. So our sports editors started taking the flip camera to high school games around here. We have different ways of presenting information to people. That's one of them. If we get a government report about something, we can upload it to our website as a PDF. We had a story a couple of years ago in Portage, where I also worked, with a woman who was making 911 calls fraudulently, tying up the operators. Well, what we could do that we couldn't have done 20 years ago because of all of these advances in computing power, we got the audio for it and we uploaded it to our website. So if you were one of our readers, you could go to our website and hear what these 911 calls were. We have all of these different ways of presenting information and gathering it. And in a nutshell, that's what it means for community newspapers. Thank you.